Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. This is Multifamily Chronicles, and I'm your host, Adrian Danila. This is episode number 42. Today, I have right here with me, my guest is Josh Hayes. Josh is the regional maintenance director with Weidner Apartment Homes. Welcome to the show, Josh.
It's an honor to be here.
Josh, let's start by introducing yourself to the audience first. Tell us a little bit about yourself, personal, professional background.
Okay. My name is Josh Hayes. I'm currently living in Oklahoma. Been married for 16 years. Got a wife with 3 kids, 2 daughters and a son. My daughters play club volleyball, so that kind of consumes a bunch of my life, starting now until about May. So that's why I work pretty much. I've been in the industry since 2004. Started as a groundskeeper in Colorado Springs and just kind of went up from there. Had a family friend that got me into the business. Was a groundskeeper for about 3 months, 4 months, and just kind of showed my service leader that I wanted to advance. I wanted to learn more, so they kind of took me under their wing and worked with them for about 3 years. And I kind of consider him my mentor. I base a lot of my leadership styles around him. I've never asked any of my guys to do something that I won't do because he did the same thing. He was side by side working with us. Most of my industry experience has been in Colorado. Worked with Riverstone, opening up some new builds with them. Spent about 20 months in Williston, North Dakota. So that was quite a shock. But our executive vice president asked me to go up there. So when he asks you to go, you kind of feel obligated to go, but it was a great experience. And then shortly at about halfway through that, Riverstone got bought out by Greystar and had some leadership changes. And that same vice president asked me to come down to Oklahoma City to work with his company that he was working with then, doing construction management. And so I did that, doing renovations, large CapEx projects, and whatnot. Essentially worked myself out of a job because we ran out of properties and I wasn't going to relocate again. Me and my wife had moved about 18 times prior to buying our house, so we were kind of set in our ways. My daughter had her friends, so Oklahoma City was home now. So got let go. About 2 weeks into being out of the job, I got a phone call from a rep that I didn't even do work with, just spoke with him briefly doing renovations, and he asked me if I wanted to get back into the management side. And he said one of his community directors had a property that was coming up, their company was getting ready to buy it. It was a large asset, and I was like, sure, put my name in the hat, and got a call, and been with Weidner ever since. So got on with Weidner, managing Brookwood Village Apartments, which is the largest in our portfolio. It's 1,128 units, over 68 acres, had a large staff, and we did well there for the 4.5 years I was there. So we turned it around, made it a great property, and it's still thriving today. And then last May, I got promoted to regional maintenance director. So now I'm over Oklahoma and Arkansas.
Josh, you had a remarkable career so far, and I'm sure the best is just to come for you. A lot of the maintenance professionals in multifamily are frustrated by the fact that there's not so many opportunities out there to move up the ladder. Opportunities exist, that's just the reality. This is how you got into the role that you are today. This is how I've gotten into, my roles that I had, director roles that I had within the multifamily industry. I wanted to ask you, Josh, what drives you? What gives you the drive?
As cheesy as it sounds, it's my family. I do everything for them. I feel I'm a selfless man. I have a nice truck, I got a nice house, but what I do it for my kids. I want to have them to have the life that I had a great life growing up, but it wasn't the best. I didn't have everything. I didn't have, Nike shoes all the time and stuff like that. So I just wanted to provide for my kids something that I didn't have and stuff. So that's what ultimately drives me. It's just my family. So
look, family is everything because you only get to have one, right?
Yep.
When it comes to jobs, you might have 2, 3, 5, 20. So I don't think it's cheesy. I think it's very important.
Mm-hmm.
It's very important. So, Josh, what advice would you have for someone that's currently working at the site level, no matter what position, it could be groundskeeper, it could be service manager, what advice would you have for them if their goal is ultimately to move up the ladder and become a regional service manager like you are?
Take risks. North Dakota was a huge risk for me. You know, moving from my family from Colorado to someplace where I had no family. And that just kind of gave me a lot of experience. So be willing to take that risk. Take bets on yourself. Not every opportunity is going to be the best opportunity, but it's something that you're going to learn from. Don't be afraid to ask for help along the way, especially the entry-level guys, the service, you know, the 2-3 year service techs, the groundskeepers and whatnot. Men have issues, I feel, with asking for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help and ask for guidance to get through things, because you know, we don't know everything, and that's how we're going to get better at it. And don't be afraid to fail. You know, if you make that mistake, as long as you learn from what you failed on, then that's going to just make you better in the long run, I feel.
Josh, tell me about some great things that are happening at Weidner currently.
Ooh, that's a good question. 2023 is going to be the year of Weidner, I feel. Mr. Weidner kind of realized in 2021, things kind of got away from what his overall goal, his vision, mission, and value is, and what our vision, mission, and value is. So he took a step back, reevaluated the company, made some changes, and those changes are starting to go into effect this year. We've had a couple changes happen now, but 2023 is going to be the year of all those changes. Last November, we had our first town hall meeting. Mr. Weidner got on the phone, you know, got on the computer, got on the recording, and he vowed that within 4 years, Weidner was going to be one of the best companies to work for, both just company culture-wise, pay-wise, and things like that. He ended that conversation with giving everybody a pay raise throughout the entire company that day, went into effect that current pay period. The previous year for COVID, you know, he came out, he sent a letter, basically gave everybody a $2,400 bonus right before Christmas time. So now in 2022, we had a handful of committees that got created to see what we needed to change. Where do we get away from our company culture and our people and stuff like that, and how do we get back to that? So those committees have all wrapped up, and now we're just rolling out those committees, and we're trying to figure out how we roll them out. And last month we had another town hall meeting, and that was the first step for the rollout. Once again, at the end of that town hall meeting, he gave every single Weidner employee a pay raise at that point in time. Not to mention, we give company pay raises in the first quarter of every year as well too. So we give evaluations and pay raises after that. So not only did we get our pay raises in May, but then we got a pay raise last month as well. Last week, we got another great email that got submitted from one of those committees, and that's our on-call program. They realized that needed to be changed up. That got changed up. Everything got implemented as of last week. So now going forward, we have a completely different on-call program. I just received an email this morning. Next month, at the end of this month, they're going to be rolling out a new bonus program for us. So restructuring our bonus program, because it hasn't been changed since about 2013. So increasing the bonus for on-site team members, changing the way we're doing it and stuff, that's just the first 3 parts of our committees that have. So next year, we still have about 4 or 5 more committees that are going to be rolling out with changes to the company. So I am truly excited for Weidner as a whole in 2023. And really just Oklahoma City, Oklahoma region, it's one of our fastest growing, markets. It's where Mr. Weidner is investing in. So it's a great Oklahoma City and Oklahoma, Tulsa, Arkansas is a place to be right now if you want to have a good career with Weidner. So
definitely, I'll be on the lookout for more updates from your company. Sounds like a lot of exciting stuff it's about to happen right there. So it's great, and I encourage everybody that's watching to keep an eye on your company, especially if they live in those areas. This brings me to my next question, Josh. My next question is, could you tell us about the coverage that your company has as far as geographical coverage? Like what states are you in currently?
So currently we are, I think we're number 14 or 15 on the national list for ownership size. So we currently have, I think with our acquisition yesterday, about 302 properties. We're based out of Kirkland, Seattle. So Seattle kind of has about 50 to 54 properties there. We're based in Anchorage in Alaska. So we have a huge presence in Anchorage. We're across Canada in 4 different provinces. I believe we have about 52 properties there. 14 properties in North Dakota. We're in Minnesota and Wisconsin. We're growing in Wisconsin or Minnesota as well. So we have about 22 properties in Minnesota, about 15 properties in Wisconsin. We've got 16 properties in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And we're getting ready to break ground on a 900 unit build around Weidner Field in Colorado Springs. Our largest footprint is in Phoenix, Arizona, where we have about 9,800 units and about 46 properties. We have properties in Midland, Odessa, DFW. So between the two cities there, we have about 9,000 units. And then obviously Oklahoma and Arkansas, we have 25 properties with about 8,800 units.
That's pretty impressive as far as numbers overall and also footprint. So any plans to come in the southeast?
I've heard there's little, it's been kind of talked about. I think Ohio has been kind of mentioned a little bit on that list. I think North Carolina has been mentioned on that list. The crazy thing was in 2020, DFW was not even on our radar to be in the Dallas market. June 2021, we bought our first property and now we have 14 there. And we're getting ready to close on 15 next month. So it can change at the drop of a hat and we could be in that market this time next year. You just never know and stuff. So Mr. Weidner has a great team around him to kind of see where the best markets are. So if that market is a smart market to get into, then we'll jump in that market.
That's excellent news. Definitely, I'll follow your company, and I'll be excited to see the growth that you're already experiencing. My next topic, Josh, that I want to talk to you about is labor shortages in maintenance in particular. Our industry has been known as an industry with a high turnover rates, especially on the maintenance side. COVID came in, COVID hit, the rates went through the roof. So we're hurting way more than ever before. How do you think that we got to this point? And where do we go from here? How do we find, what solutions do we find to alleviate this pain that we have with not being able to find enough qualified maintenance personnel?
It might seem like a funny answer, but I think, with COVID being that starter point, I think social media, TikTok got us there as well. I can't scroll through my TikTok without seeing people, here's how you start an LLC, here's how you get a power washing business, here's how you do this. So I think with that COVID, companies started to either lay off people or cut hours drastically. So service guys had to find a way to supplement their income. We naturally are gifted, or we actually have an ability to paint, build things, fix things, and stuff like that. So I think what a lot of our industry guys did was probably just look in their neighborhood on their Facebook pages or just word of mouth for repairs and little projects people wanted to get done around the house. And then obviously, with everybody doing a lot of work from home stuff, they either need an office space built or designed and stuff. So they got to have somebody do that. So they might find a local handyman to do that. They're sitting at home, working from home, and they're like, man, I could really use a new paint job. So they're going to try and find somebody to do that. We're talented to where we can do that. So I think projects like that from homeowners started to drive people to start working with their hands more to supplement that income. And then it just, word of mouth or their skill set just kept let them grow. And they just got to the point where they go, I can build a deck and make $2,000 in a weekend. So why should I work 40 hours a week? I can kind of control my hours and stuff. So I think that led to at least a great resignation on the maintenance side, was just TikTok, social media, and stuff like that. And then with COVID, kind of being the pusher on that, and guys just finding handyman jobs. As far as trying to stop it, it seems like a simple answer, but I think it's just, we have to take care of our people. We have to recognize what they're doing for us, what they're providing for us. We have to make sure that we're giving them, some ample free time, time to spend with their families. We're obviously paying them. I mean, I think pay is a driving factor nowadays. I look at it and I have techs that complain about what they're making as a tech, and I'm like, man, I was a small family making $11 an hour as a service tech back in 05, 06. I'm like, you guys are complaining making X amount. I was like, I would love to make that then, but it is a different time and stuff. So I think being competitive with our wages is going to be that big thing as well too. So,
Josh, we're trying to attract people from outside the industry, especially I'll say younger generation that never been in a workforce. They're about to step into the workforce. What advice would you have for a young person that might consider a career in maintenance field?
I would have, I think just explain to them the benefits of multifamily. We're not going anywhere. It's never going to go away and stuff, because you're always going to have people, you have the boomer generation that they're getting out of their house and now they have to get into an apartment potentially because they don't want to go live in an assisted living or nursing home. So they got to live in an apartment because they still want to be able to kind of be free. But then you have the younger generation that's come up that they don't want to buy a house. Buying a house is not the American dream anymore. So they either want to rent an apartment, whether it be something new downtown or whatever. So when I am interviewing people, I'm just speaking on behalf of what I've experienced, from my growth career and stuff, and then just let them know that's available for them and stuff. So just let them know that multifamily is not going anywhere, and we can have an interest rate hike, and these trade jobs might start slowing down, or you already know your work shift. You're going to work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, on call once every 3-4 weeks. Whereas if you go be a plumber or an HVAC technician, in Oklahoma City, May to September, you're doing 80 hours a week. But then what are you doing from September to May, essentially? You might be getting 20, 30 hours a week and whatnot, if that. So I think just talking to them and then just letting them know the consistency of multifamily.
Can you think of a few great ways to attract people towards the industry, towards our companies, through your company, and would you like to share them with the audience? What has been working really well for you?
So we've had, for us, word of mouth has been phenomenal. Just especially here in Oklahoma City, I look at a lot of resumes on our job site when they come through, and it's not only from the recommendations from our current employees, but people that have never worked for our company, but they have friends, they have former coworkers that have worked with us, and they're referring our companies. So I've seen a handful of resumes that came through from some leasing agent who doesn't even work for Weidner, but she has friends that work for us, and she hears about how well we're doing stuff, and she's referring people to Weidner versus her company. So I think that word of mouth and just the way you take care of your employees is huge. The apartment industry, while it's big, it's a small community within every city. It's the apartment association, everybody starts talking and stuff like that when you go to these events. So I think just the word of mouth and just taking care of your residents or your employees, and then also go to these trade schools and maybe trying to talk to them and having some sort of program to where you can bring them in and teach them the maintenance side of it. Weidner has an SIT program where we actually go down to Western Tech down in Texas, and we're trying to talk to some of their HVAC guys and saying, hey, here's why you should come join Weidner. Here's why you should be on the apartment maintenance side versus going into doing HVAC. And we've had great success with that in the past, and we continue to have great success with that. So
it's very fascinating. Those are some really great ways to attract people, but you can't really be that efficient unless you have something to offer, like something really meaningful. I'm not necessarily talking about just salary, benefits, and the perks, right? But the environment. So this brings me to the next topic. The next topic is culture, company culture. Company culture is something that I'm very passionate about. I speak about, I write about on social media, on LinkedIn mainly. I want to take your get your take on company culture. What are the things that matter to you when it comes to company culture, Josh?
Growth opportunities, being able to be heard. I've kind of started that new little hashtag no pizza parties here and stuff like that. Especially when it comes to the service side. That's one of the biggest things that I see you post is the lunches aren't going to keep you guys around and stuff like that. So just trying to find out what makes the guys happy. What kind of recognition do they like if they need any? Some guys just need a pat on the back once every other few weeks or whatever. We've gotten creative with, if you're doing an excellent job, hey, maybe on Friday you're taking a half day off and stuff like that, and we're going to pay you for it. So if you have a really good productive week that week, then go ahead and start your weekend early and stuff. For us as well too, is it amazes me when I look at our LinkedIn profiles for Weidner and I see the time in that we're celebrating some of our employees. We got one earlier this year. We have a housekeeper that's been with us for 25 years in Anchorage. I was blown away. I go, as a housekeeper, I go, 25 years. I go, I would probably venture to guess that we have more people that's worked for Weidner over 10 years than what we have less than 10 years. And it all comes from our leadership too. And then like for us, for example, we have such great tangible evidence to that company culture. We have the growth in our region and stuff like that. We have an MIT program, which is just like the SIT program, but it's for managers and training and stuff. Our executive vice president, she was the very first MIT 17 years ago. She went through the program. She was up in Seattle. She moved to Arizona. She became an area director there. She moved to California. She became an area director and a regional director there. Then she moved to Oklahoma and was a regional director over Oklahoma and California. This past year, she just got promoted to executive vice president over Oklahoma, Dallas-Fort Worth, Arkansas, and Midland, Odessa. So we have that growth that we can show in our company. Our regional director now, she was an MIT 12 years ago, 13 years ago in Arizona. So she's come up through the program as well. Our other area director here in Oklahoma City, he was an MIT 8 years ago. So he started at nothing, just coming into the business straight out of college. And here he is 8 years later as an area director over 6 of our assets. On the maintenance side, we have our SIT program. And we promoted our first SIT she was actually our second SIT in Oklahoma. She just got promoted this year after 3 years to one of our downtown portfolio as a service leader down there. So that's one of the things that when I'm talking to employees or potential employees and even employees, I say, look at the tangible evidence that we have on the growth that you have and stuff like that within the company and stuff. So
one of the things that you touched on previously, Josh, was pay, right? Let's talk about competitive pay. How do we define it? And I don't mean a number. I don't want you to say, competitive pay is going to be 25 an hour or 13 an hour or whatever the number might be. We both know, and the audience also knows, that this varies based on the market, based on the age of the property, based on many things, the size of the property, the difficulty of that particular job. So how do you determine competitive pay? What are some factors that help your company determine what competitive pay is?
We stepped out of just looking at the apartment industry. We started asking when we would interview somebody, and we would interview them, we would offer them a job, and then we would call and maybe say, hey, we want to offer you this job. And they say, unfortunately, I took this job somewhere else. We would ask them, where, why? And Amazon was a big factor for us. So we lost a handful of service team members to Amazon, because you can go to Amazon making $1 or $2 more than what we were offering. No on call, no responsibilities. You clock in, you clock out, you go home, you're done. From what I understand, not the best job and stuff like that, but we started to look outside. So we started using Amazon as a gauge for us. So because of that, we upped our pay to be either equal or more than what Amazon was paying. So I think just looking outside of not just our apartment industry, but who else are we losing employees, either whether it be current employees or prospective employees, who are we losing those to? And we need to ask them, we need to be willing to ask them those questions. What are they offering you for pay or whatever, because You can even go to 7-Eleven and make $16 an hour as a clerk. I mean, we're paying our groundskeepers $15 an hour to start roughly. So they can go there and have no responsibility. They don't have no growth. But so now we got to reevaluate our pay for that and kind of take that into consideration as well too. So I think just looking outside of the box, out of the apartment industry as a whole, and utilizing other companies and what they're paying.
I love the fact that you guys have this vision to see the big picture, to see and to actually acknowledge the fact that you're competing not just with a company down the street from you, but you're competing with everybody in that market, like everybody, every single business is hiring, you are competing with today. That is the world we're living in.
Yep. And what we've learned from that is now instead of reevaluating our pays once every 2 years, once a year, now we're reevaluating our pay multiple times a year. Every quarter we're pulling reports and stuff like that. We just went through a month ago and we gave a blanket pay raise to everybody to get them up to what we feel the new market is and stuff. So we had, you know, a good percentage of our employees that got a pay raise just because the market was calling for it. They didn't ask for it. They weren't complaining about what they were making. They were happy with what they're making. But we come along and say, hey, here's this, sign this, you're getting a pay raise just because of the market around us and stuff. So that's one of the great things about Weidner is, like you said, we're looking outside of the companies that we're losing people to, but then we're also doing something about it multiple times throughout the year.
Yeah, that's quite fantastic. You're one of the very few companies that I'm learning that does that. In a current environment, I think you're in for for tremendous wins in the present and in the near future too. The best way to attract the best talent is to be the first company to lead the way, and it seems like your company is that type of company. Everything that I just heard from you today, that you shared with us here with the audience, it's been amazing. So I know that you're in for for some really big wins. So just keep it up. If you are keep it up, everybody else is gonna try to play catch up. That's for sure. Next topic, Josh, I wanted to talk a little bit about on call. This is one of the top complaints when it comes to maintenance, on-site maintenance. They're complaining about on call. Whether it's what does on call cover? What do they have to cover during the on call? The hours, the pay, the comp pay. It's a whole conversation. So talk to me about how your company approaches on call. Like what are the expectations, and also what is the compensation for someone being on call?
That's a big trigger button for me. I left the company because of the on call. I had a community director that was, she tried throwing around comp time and be thankful you have a job. And I was like, okay. And I started looking and I left. So for me, the on call is a huge thing. In my opinion, if your company wants to offer 24 hours, 7 day, 365 day a week, a year on call, they should be willing to pay for those calls. If you're not willing to pay for them, drop the service and see what it does. See where your occupancy goes. See what type of clientele you get in there. See what type of people you attract, and just see how your asset goes. So for Weidner, and I know you posed this question, you put it in a poll, I think it was about 2 months ago. And I answered that I was like, yeah, this is a great answer. And I felt that we were leading the industry, and I saw some of the responses. I was like, maybe we're not. I actually screenshotted those comments and I sent those off to my regional director and my executive vice president and said, hey, apparently Weidner is not where we're supposed to be at. Here's what other people are doing. So we used to offer $10 a day for being on call. So just to take the phone, just is $10 a day. And we would pay out all your calls. We were never asked you to go off, take off early or anything else like that. So as of last week, we just increased our stipend to $25 a day. So every day you're on call, it's $25 a day. If you were on call for a holiday, it is $50 for that holiday. So, and then not to mention, we're still going to offer, you're still getting paid all your hours and stuff like that. Because in my opinion, if you're getting a lot of hours of on call, either you work at a hard property or there's a lot of issues with that property that need to get fixed. So if you have 8 to 12 hours of on call, and now you're getting asked to cut 8 of those hours, you now are off on Friday. So all you're doing is putting your property back behind. So I've never really quite understood why somebody would ask you to cut on call when all it's going to do is it's going to put your maintenance team in a bind. I saw that a lot when I was in Colorado because we had to shovel snow. Being at 5 o'clock, and I was on a large property, so we would shovel snow from 5 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. And we might have to do that 2 or 3 times a week. And our property manager's like, oh, you guys need to go home because we're not paying overtime. I'm like, we just spent 8 hours doing snow removal. What do you think we got accomplished today? No make-readies got done. No work orders got done. The next day, we're still tired and trying to recover, so we're not at 100%, so we're doing half as what we're doing. So come Friday, we're now fully recovered, ready to work, but now we have to take the day off, and now we're short-staffed again. So for me, if you want to offer an on-call, then you better be willing to pay for it. It better be approved overtime and stuff. And that's a great thing for Weidner's. It's approved overtime for every associate and stuff. So I think that's going to be a big deal breaker for us. And that's what's going to separate us and make us the industry leader in each of our markets is by having that stipend. And I sent an email out this Monday to our recruiting department. And I told her, I go, hey, just want to let you know, on-call change. When we have, I think, 2 or 3 open spots in Oklahoma City. And I said, when we're talking to people, you make sure that you say that because it is something. It is a trigger point for some people. And I actually spoke to one of my service leaders yesterday because I'm working around trying to build teams, geographically speaking, so then that way, instead of having 3 guys on call, maybe you have 6 guys in rotation. I called one of my properties yesterday and talked to the service leader and asked him about it. He goes, you know, ever since that email came out and everybody's stipend increased, now everybody wants to take on call and they're, you know, they don't really want to share it now. They'd rather just get paid that extra money and stuff. So it made that change. I mean, to go from being that biggest negative thing about the job is being on call, now it's like, give me the extra money. I'll take the extra hours and stuff like that. I'll take the extra, you know, $100 a week extra of what it was before and stuff. So it's definitely been a huge change for us. And like I said, I think we're going to be I think that might have made us the industry leader with that stipend. So
it's pretty amazing the change that you notice once you start paying paying people to do the work. Once you're actually compensating them, once it goes beyond the lip service type of deal, saying that, we care about our people. Once you start putting the money where your mouth is, amazingly how many things can change and do change. So I had to applaud you and your company. I'm extremely impressed. It's probably the best program and the best experience that I had with, talking to someone in an industry in the recent years. I think you're in for, for some amazing wins. Just keep pushing it, because again, everybody else is gonna play catch up with you. They're going to have to work really, really hard to compete with you. And over the talent too. It's not just, I don't mean a different competition who has more properties. At the end of the day, it comes down to people who has the best qualified people, because that's where the fight is really. That's where the recipe for success is, in my opinion. Everybody has money to invest. Everybody that's a large company that has 10, 20, 30, 60,000 units, they have a lot of money to invest. So money is there, technology is there, resources out there. Is how do you get the best talent? And it seems like your company really, really found some great ways. I'm actually amazed that I haven't seen anything. My personal suggestion would be to do more advertising what you're offering, because honestly, if it wasn't for this conversation, I would have known about so many things that, great things, amazing that your company does. Like you should be using that. You should be aggressively market those benefits, because they're just they're top of the industry. I promise you that. Josh, the next topic that I have is burnout. Burnout is something that it's something that's causing a lot of maintenance professionals to actually leave the industry altogether, just because they've been burned out, overworked, underappreciated, and they're done. So tell me about a few ways that you can think of helping the teams not get to the point of, becoming to feel this burnout.
I would start out with, and I kind of call it nickel and diming yourself. We offer the vacation, we offer the sick time and stuff. And, you know, in the 4.5 years I was at Brookwood, I seen a lot where, you know, we might have had a busy Monday, Tuesday, so somebody's going to call in on Wednesday. And why are you calling? I just don't feel good, just tired, don't want to come in and stuff. So what ends up happening from what my experience is whether it's people that are new to apartments or new to having benefits, they just tend to take, oh, I get paid to have this day off, I can sit at home and do this. I've always told my guys, if you're tired, if you're burned out and stuff like that, take a week off. Try and take off 4 or 5 days to recharge. Don't just take a day off here, a day off there, because what are you truly getting from it and stuff? So if you truly want to get that recovery, you know, take off a Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday. It gives you 6 days to recover. Go do something and stuff. So just stop shortchanging yourself. You know, stop taking this day off here just because you wake up and you're like, I don't want to get in the shower. I don't want to get dressed. So I'm just going to lay here in bed for the next 2 hours. It's not really doing anything for you because you're just going to go back to work the next day. And now you're behind for that day that you missed already and stuff. And that's how you kind of feel and stuff. But I also think you need to have support systems there. Weidner believes everything that, you know, when you get hired on, you don't get hired on for a property, you get hired on for Weidner. So we have that support system within our company from assistance from other properties. But one of the things that we just rolled out as well is regional floaters. So here in Oklahoma, we just added a regional floater to our Tulsa market. We added one to our Oklahoma City market. So that their main goal is to cover vacations. And that's the way I'm telling all my service leaders. He is here to help you cover vacations. So now let's push you guys to take a week off. Let's push you guys to take multiple days off because we have the resources now for somebody to step in, fill their shoes, and now you're not going to get behind. Same goes for the service leaders. He was one of my service techs. He is in that spot right now to where he can jump in and manage a property if we give him one, if he wanted one and stuff. So now I told all my service leaders, now you can take a week off because you have Kenneth coming in to help you. He knows how to schedule vendors. He knows how to pull work orders, close out work orders, and manage teams. So now you can go on vacation. You can leave and know the property's not going to burn. You know, it's not going to fail. And that was an issue that I experienced myself is when I was on vacation, I was consistently worried about what was going on and stuff. Fortunately for me, I saw something in one of my techs. I took him under my wing. I mentored him, spent about 2 years training him to take my spot because I knew I couldn't really get promoted unless I had somebody to fill my shoes because it was such a large property. So I brought him along my journey and trained him up with Weidner, showed him how to use Yardi, budgets, hiring people and stuff like that. So when I wanted to go on vacation to prevent my burnout, he would run the property. And I know when I came back, everything was running smooth and stuff. So I think just one, stop shortchanging yourself and taking a day off here and there. Let's go ahead and take a week off at a time, 4 or 5 days off at a time. But then also companies need to kind of try and have some sort of regional support team for you. So you can say, take some time off because we have somebody coming in to help you out and stuff.
That's one of the things that I've been predicating for a very long time. I was able to apply the same system to hire a team of floaters to support my properties at a time a few years back, and the results were just amazing. We're able to maintain the properties, you know, the very high, you know, standard levels of service, and it helped with everything. You know, it reduced turnover, employee turnover, it reduced stress levels. So again, another thumbs up right there for doing that. That's just amazing. Now, Josh, I wanted to ask you about your onboarding system for maintenance professionals. Could you walk me through how you onboard new personnel?
So all of our onboarding goes through our regional admin. So we have one single person for each region, and they're in charge of that onboarding process. So from the hiring process, we post jobs on Indeed, LinkedIn, stuff like that. We have our recruiting department. They'll reach out to the prospective employees, ask them some basic questions, you know, make sure they're going to be a good fit for us or they're qualified, you know, they have their license, insurance, whatever it is for qualifications. They'll pass it along to us. We'll interview them on site, make the decision, and then when it comes to onboarding, we have the same person that onboards every single associate. We actually just hired an associate middle of October. He was supposed to go work for another company in Arkansas, and he had everything lined up. He had his date for his onboarding. He goes to show up to the property. Nobody knows who he is. The property man, and he's supposed to be working at this property. Property manager doesn't know anything about it. The person that was doing the onboarding never passed along any information, never did anything. So he's standing there like, I don't know what to do. So he just left. Comes on with us. The community director for that property reached out to him and said, hey, just want to make sure you're ready to go. We're going to be here at this time, on this date for your onboarding. So just knock on the door, we'll let you in. And we did it virtually because he was in Arkansas. Our regional admin was in Oklahoma City. But we sat down, did the onboarding process, and it's just so important because they go through so much information in that first 8 hours of the start. They got to know, they got their benefits, they got their tax deductions, they got their direct deposit, all the benefits, all that needs to be conveyed, and it needs to be conveyed in a consistent manner. So I feel if you have property managers doing it, then it could change drastically from property to property, and you might miss out on something huge for it. So the onboarding for us is pretty spot on with just having our regional admin take care of it. And then they spend the first day just watching some basic videos, fair housing, sexual harassment, things like that, for the first day, day and a half, that's what they do. And then they have another 90 days to finish the rest of their video training. So
Josh, training. Training is an important piece of our business, or it should be, at least, right? Especially for maintenance professionals. Things change, new technologies are coming along, new ways of fixing things are coming along, tools out there. We have to keep up with what's happening in the world. So tell me about how would you envision, the ideal training for maintenance in 2022 and 2023? What would be the most efficient and meaningful way of training maintenance professionals?
Training is very important for me. That's kind of where I think I've hung my hat on where I want to leave my legacy behind. That's just something that I want to do when I leave this industry. I want to have something that somebody can look back to and say, hey, Josh, started this program for training and stuff. I think we need to look at, like you said, it's coming technology based, it's coming computer based, it's coming app based as far as Yardi mobile and stuff like that. So I've seen the resistance from the older generation not wanting to do work on the computer and stuff like that. They're not wanting to really learn much on Yardi and stuff. But I think just explaining to them the benefits for them and how well it comes into play, that it helps them in the long run and stuff. So the training for me is something that's really important. And even for us as a company, we have our 2 training programs for manager in training and service in training. We can bring somebody in with little to no experience on the maintenance side, spend some time with them, and at least get them the basics, because what they're doing is they're on the hip of a certified mentor for the time of their training. And they go through pretty much everything you need to know about the apartment industry. They don't master everything, but it gets to the point to where they can understand things, they can see things from a different light and stuff like that. And that's been a really great, successful program for us as a company as well too. So
the next topic that I want to talk to you about, Josh, is National Apartment Association certifications. I know that you're involved with with the programs. You have some designations yourself. Congratulations for that. I think they're very important. I think what we're missing though at a national level, at an NAA level, is a certified service manager program specific for service managers. We have the certified apartment technician designation, but not for service managers. Just like we have community managers that get certified apartment manager, we do not have a service manager. I've been told that there's like a curriculum for certified apartment maintenance technician leadership. Yeah, but there's still the title of it. It's certified maintenance technician, not service manager. When you change the title, the expectation should be changing as well. If you're gonna keep it at a service technician level with leadership, you're gonna be a service technician that has leadership knowledge. You're not going to be a service manager. It's a matter of prestige as well. People do want to have, like, titles are maybe they're not important. When you get all the way up to the top, and I heard, many individuals saying, well, titles are not important. Of course, when you're the owner of the company or the CEO, I guess it's so high that you would get like there, because there's nothing else to achieve. But when someone wants to move up the ladder and they want to become better and get acknowledgement from their peers, it's very important. Titles are very important. So what do you think of what I just said? The need for the industry as a whole to create a program that's specific, a certification specific for service managers.
Can you start a petition? I'll be the first one to sign it. Let's see if we can get 10,000 signatures or whatever and present it to NAA. I mean, it's so important, and I'll, if anybody from NAA is watching, I'll definitely be willing to help write that program or help with something and stuff, because you're right. It is so important, because I've seen it happen to where service techs see us. I can do that job. They're just sitting there answering a phone. They're just on the computer or whatever it is. And then they excel at a service tech position, but they don't necessarily learn a whole lot along the way. They're just kind of seeing in the background what their service leader is doing. They step into that role and they really get hit with the reality of what it takes to manage a property, especially when you have to manage a large property and stuff. So I think that would be something that would be so huge and beneficial to our property, to our company or to our industry, because I've seen it go two ways. I've seen service techs go into that service manager role, not have the proper training, and just leave the industry altogether because they get burned out, they get overwhelmed, they get stressed out, they have a bad relationship with their community director or their regional director. So they're like, I'm just going to leave the industry because they got a bad taste. Or they get there, they're struggling, their pride steps in the way, they don't want to ask for help, but then they're in there for a year and a half, and the property's starting to fail, the property's starting to go on that downward trend, and then they realize, oh, I need help, and they just want to take a step back. So instead of trying to fix their mistakes and to learn from there, they just want to take that step back down to a tech position, maybe relearn what they know that they need to work on, and then go forward. So there's just so much unseen things that we do as a service leader that our techs don't see, from walking with the vendors, from creating scopes, to looking at budgets, to creating budgets. I mean, that's the greatest thing about Weidner, is they are not trying to hide anything from their service leaders. We all have access to what our budget's supposed to be. We have input on that budget. So we need to be educated when we go into those budget meetings to know what we're asking for. We just can't go in on a whim and say, hey, I need $45,000 this year for HVAC. Well, why? It just sounds like a good number, but we don't have anything to back it up and stuff. And I think that's things that we can teach as that certified apartment service manager, whatever we want to call it, in NAA and stuff like that. So there's going to be so much that we can write up, schedule with vendors and stuff. So that's something that I would like to see happen maybe within the next 5 years. And that's something that I would love to be a part of. And I have something in my back pocket I'm trying to work on within Weidner. So we do have our service and training program. I'm trying to create a service leader in training program to where we can take those service techs that we recognize for that next level. Maybe it's not a set time frame on how long they have to be in the program. Maybe it's just set things that we're training with them over the course of a year, over the course of 9 months, and let them spend a month running a property. Like I said earlier, I had my service tech that I brought under my wing. He hired everybody that came onto that property for 18 months. So my last 18 months, I didn't hire one person. He was just a service tech, but I empowered him to know what he had to look for. And my point was, this is potentially going to be your team. You need to hire who you feel is going to be in that program, or who's going to be side by side with you, because you got to have that team to have your property succeed. I feel I was a very successful service leader at Brookwood, but I couldn't have done it without my team, because I wasn't there in the trenches day in and day out doing the work orders, because there was so much behind the scenes things that I was doing. So these training programs, they need to be put in place. Maintenance needs to come off the back burner. It needs to be brought to the forefront, and that training has to be there as well too and stuff. So the faster companies realize that, the faster they're going to see their asset improving. The fastest they're going to see their employee retention increase. Because like you said, we're investing in them. I'm pushing all my service guys to go get their CAMT and stuff like that, because it's showing that we're willing to drop $1,000 on you site for 5 days to at least get your certification in the field and stuff like that. So I mean, I think it would mean the world to everybody, because like you said, job titles do matter to an extent. Yeah, once you get to the leadership side of it, it is what it is. But once you're still on that site level, those job titles do mean something and stuff like that. And it kind of just proves all your hard work. It proves your work. It's something that you can show and say, all right, somebody recognizes what I'm doing because they're willing to spend this money on me to get my education and to further my career to help them out.
Josh, it's been a super eye-opening conversation for me to just learn about so many great things and programs that you have going on, you yourself, your company as a whole. I'm extremely excited when this episode comes out to put the word out there in a world for everybody to hear. I hope that your company takes this, one step further and just kind of pushes the message out, because it's probably the most all-around complete message that I've heard, with things that are very important to me. They're they're very close to my heart, and I'm sure that many out there are sharing my sentiment, things that matter to them as well. So I do want to thank you for your time, for being here with me. I hope to do something, a follow-up in a few months down the road, to just kind of get an update on all the great programs that you're rolling out there. In closing, Josh, I would like to ask you, is there anything that you wish we would have discussed? Any final thoughts that you have for the audience right here before we conclude this episode?
I think we covered everything. I think that my biggest request is for you just to keep asking those questions on LinkedIn. I definitely appreciate you asking those questions, because I don't know if I would have ever had the gumption to come out and start posting those questions myself. So I think you're bringing so much light to the maintenance field. I think, we need to get more people involved in on that LinkedIn as well too. We kind of had this discussion earlier on one of your posts about service techs and service leaders being on there and stuff like that, pushing for those guys to get on there. And, you've been a great voice for us as a whole, just by posting those questions, because it's just not me or service techs that are answering the questions. It's, regional directors, it's CEOs and things like that are seeing it. And I see what your views are every month. So you are making an impact. So I'll just say, just keep doing what you're doing and keep asking those hard questions on LinkedIn, and I'll keep answering them.
I truly appreciate, again, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your kind words. I hope to do a follow-up, maybe 3 to 6 months down the road, and just learn more about the great things that you have going on over there with your company.
Absolutely, anytime.
Everybody, thank you very much for watching us today. This is Multifamily Chronicles, and I'm your host, Adrian Danila. I hope to see you back here soon. Have a great day.